TD Jakes is one of the most powerful names in Christian circles in our season. And this man is really a man on purpose, a man who is doing stuff that even if you are not a Christian, you would have heard about TD Jakes. I heard a friend of mine who was not even a Christian some years back saying that if you've got to do something, you've got to be the best at what you do. He was talking about guys like Tupac Shakur and TD Jakes and so on. And we are talking about productivity, and I want to use what TD Jakes was sharing with me in the morning some time back that just made me break into pieces. You want to stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Because productivity is highly connected to doing what you love or what you're passionate about, it is absolutely easy to find that the guys who have passion are the guys who have productivity. The guys who are committed to the things that they are doing, actually the guys who are equipped in doing what they are doing, they're the guys who are having some level of productivity. And you know that we're talking productivity, not just being doing things or doing activities, checking off activities off of your calendar or off of your timetable. We're saying productivity is connected to doing the right thing that you are actually intended to do in the first place. That's why you cannot photocopy TD Jakes. As in, you cannot pretend to be TD Jakes and you do the exact thing that the man is doing. He is not just a preacher. He is also a businessman. He is an actor. He is a musician. He is a director. He is a movie producer. I mean, there's quite a bit that this man is doing in terms of productivity. And this productivity of the man is connected to one thing. It is connected to his purpose. It is incredible stuff to watch a man of purpose, a man of passion in action. It is mind-boggling. And I've said on this podcast very many times that we pay top dollar to watch the Cristiano Ronaldos of this world, the Lionel Messis of this world, to watch these highly paid athletes, highly paid performers. The other day I was watching this man called Eliud Kipchoge break the sub 2-hour marathon barrier. And you see, we pay top dollar or we spend time to see or to be witnesses of productivity, if there's such kind of a thing. And it's important. So if we are learning on how to be productive, we need to learn from these people. We've been learning some aspects of productivity in this mini series, and it's important for us to remind ourselves of exactly what it is that we need to do in order to be productive. And I'm going to tell you TD Jakes' story in a while, but let me just tell you where we have come from so far. We've said that for you to be productive, you need at least to identify what you're going to be productive for. Is it the thing that you are called to do? Is it your purpose? Is it what you're equipped to do in the first place? When you find yourself doing things just for the sake of doing, going through life, just going through a cycle of activities, just going through some kind of rut, it is not necessarily being productive. We found out that Steve Covey told us that you can climb the ladder up to the top, only to realize that when you've arrived at the top, the ladder was actually leaning on the wrong wall. So it is important for you to understand, why am I here? What can I be productive in? What is that thing that I can actually be productive at before you can start your journey? And we qualified it by saying that you don't need to stop living. I know there's some aspects of our lives, or there's some time, there's a season in your life that you'll need to stop all the traffic and you just do a soul searching to find out, wait a minute, what am I doing here? What can I put my hands on? What is it that I can be able to do well? And you go for it. There are some times that you will need to do that. And I'm not necessarily saying that you stop all the traffic, you dump everything, you stop doing things so that you can clarify what it is that you need to do before you can move on. At times you can do that. But I'm saying in terms of your attitude on productivity, you can stop all the traffic and start asking yourself, am I being productive? Am I doing the right thing? And in such a mode, in such an attitude, in such a dispensation in your mind, you will start seeing the change in the things and in the approach of the things that you're doing in your life on a daily basis. So to be productive, if you're going to be productive, stop and start asking yourself those questions. Number 2, we saw that you need to start clarifying. You need to start seeking, really seeking, honestly seeking to find out, where is it that you can really be productive at? Stop telling yourself this lie that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Listen, that has its context. If you can read that scripture in context, it's talking about totally something different. But you can be productive in one thing or in just a few things. It's about focus. What can you be focused at? So do a seeking. Do searching, do the asking, be curious to unearth what exactly it is so that you can be successful. And then the third thing we said you should do is to jump out there, take a risk. That's what we talked about yesterday. After having the insight of what you can be productive at, get out there and dare to do the incredible thing that is not necessarily what everyone else is doing. And you see, the insight that you will have found out in your seeking will tell you that probably you need to take this route that everybody else is shunning, this route that everybody else is discouraging you from taking. And that's what you need to do to be productive. And today, I want us to look at one more thing that will cause you to be productive in your life. And going back to T.D. Jakes' story, I was listening to him some couple of days back in the morning. I don't know what he was talking about. I can't remember. I think he was talking about the message of purpose. And of course, I am a guy of purpose. And so every single day, every single week, every now and then, I look out for content to deal with purpose. And so I landed on one of his messages, and he was talking about purpose, and he narrated a story of how one day someone went and wrote on the newspapers about him something that totally discouraged him, and he saw people bashing him and telling lies about him, and it was on national newspaper. I mean, they are bashing the man and they have absolutely no clue what he was going through. And so T.D. Jakes narrates, and he says that there is a moment in time he will be preaching, but he will be hurting, and he wanted to actually call it quits. He will go there and he will be called to minister, and he will go there and he will minister, but deep inside of him he is crying, he is wasting away, he wants to throw in the towel, he wants to give up altogether, wants to stop doing what he is doing. And there's a particular moment in time that he was invited to preach at, I don't know what forum. And he went there, and it was at that moment that this newspaper was selling like hotcakes with his story, his negative story. And so he says that at that moment in time, he was down. He was totally down. People could not know. You listen to the tapes, you'll watch him preach, but you will not know that this man is going through some turmoil. His productivity is going on, yes, but you will not notice that this man is just about to throw in the towel. After he had preached, he was invited to a luncheon somewhere, and then someone told him that there's a lady who wanted to see you. So he replied and said that after the luncheon, probably we can meet. I can meet the lady. But then inside of his heart, he felt like he doesn't want to talk to someone. He was basically depleted emotionally, and he was considering quitting, if I heard him correctly. But then he persevered, and after the luncheon, he went and he met the lady. And this lady was coming out of hospital. She was in a terrible condition. And what happened to her is that she got pregnant, and she was pregnant with twins. But something so out of this world happened with her pregnancy, in that I think the embryo was germinating in another embryo, and it was a tough situation for the lady, and she lost the babies, and she nearly passed away. She nearly died herself during that ordeal. And so she meets T.D. Jakes, and she narrates to T.D. Jakes, and she tells him, at the end of the day, after narrating her story, she tells him, Bishop, while I was going through what I was going through, I was listening to you. And whatever it is that you're doing, it is for us, Bishop. It is for us. It is not for the newspapers out there. It is for us. So keep doing what you're doing. It is for us. Wow. That gave T.D. Jakes a shot in the arm, as you can imagine. And we are still listening to T.D. Jakes today, blessing multitudes of people around the universe, millions of people around the earth, because it is not for him, it is for them. It is for us that he is being productive. This is what perspective in productivity is all about. See, if you're called to purpose, your purpose is always going to be for the sake of someone else, not for you. I said in one of my quotes the other day that a visionary, a true visionary, is one who benefits from the vision last, not first, but last. You're the last beneficiary to any vision that you are championing. So T.D. Jakes is told, it is for us, Bishop. It is for us, Bishop. It is not for them. It is not for the newspapers. It is for us. And so I'm talking about being productive. We've already said that to be productive in your life, the first thing that you need to do is to stop all the traffic and start questioning to find out where your productivity is all about. The second thing is to find the insight. Why are you doing what you are doing? And then the third thing that we looked at yesterday is to take a plunge, take a risk, and just jump in. Today, I want to talk to you about one more thing about productivity. You need to realize that productivity is not a one-hit wonder. It is not something that you do and, start saying, during our days, those were the days. It's not something that you do one-off. Productivity is a lifestyle. So number 4, for you to be productive, do it like a bulldog on a mailman. That means stick to it. Don't be discouraged. Don't stop. Stick to it. Keep on doing it. You are going to face very many situations of discouragement. Yesterday, I got feedback from one of the listeners on social media to my podcast, and this is what they said. They say, this person talks a lot and over repeats himself. Just one statement. As in, that's the feedback I got. Nothing about the insight they got from the episode. Nothing positive, just some complaint, just some negative. And I must admit that, okay, of course it was one feedback, one person, but I must admit that I got discouraged, but not discouraged enough not to continue doing what I'm doing. See, one thing about productivity is that you've got to keep doing it. Hopefully I'm not repeating myself. You've got to keep doing what you are called to do for it to be productive, because it keeps building one on another, and it's not that obvious. See, the track or the route that you're taking for your productivity is not necessarily something that probably has been taught, or maybe it's not necessarily something that is on the mainstay or the mainstream, naturally, generally, widely accepted by people. At least it's not officially maybe institutionalized in the education systems of the world. But if you know that it is something that is coming from the introspection that you did, and you already got a direction that you need to take, be consistent, be consistently productive with what you are doing. You need to stick to it with all your might. You'd rather stick to this with all your might than to sit down and wait for something spectacular to happen in your life, to wait for some quote-unquote breakthrough to come into your life. If you've got an insight of what you need to do in this hour, I don't know what it is. It might be painting, it might be singing, it might be visiting the sick, whatever it is that you found, it is connected to some insight, something that brings you joy, something that causes you to be productive in whatever way. Remember, productivity is something that you're doing because you are called to do it, and you are intended to do it in the first place. There is an intention of the divine upon your life to do it. Now do it. Even when you're not seeing feedback, even when you feel like, people are not feeling you, so to speak, people are not connecting with you, I dare you to keep doing it. They might say that the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again, and each time expecting a different result. But I'm telling you, when it comes to productivity, I am giving you permission to be as mad as possible when it comes to this thing to do with your life purpose. Every single day lived on purpose, it is a seed that needs to be cultivated over and over again, over time. And that is the key word here. See, productivity will always be over time. And one of the biggest things that you and I will need to overcome in our life is a one-hit wonder. And this kind of lifestyle where we want instant gratification, instant productivity, instant feedback, and so on and so forth. We need to come to this level where we are patient. It is over time. But you see, patience has to be backed up by action. You've got to be doing some things while you're waiting for the breakthrough, while you're waiting for the fruition, while you're waiting for the prominence, while you are in obscurity. What are you doing? That is what is counting. So the thing that you're doing, the first hit that you're doing when you're cutting down a tree, nobody maybe realizes what it is, but it counts. It is not the last strike that brings down the tree. It is the aggregate of all those strikes that you've carried out. Someone said, and this is Helen Keller, the world is moved along not only by the mighty shoves of its heroes, but also by the aggregate of tiny pushes of each honest worker. Now, she's talking about the whole universe, but I'm talking about you. She said that it's not just the heroes who are productive, but the tiny efforts of each honest worker counts. The same thing with you in your life. The tiny pushes of things that go unnoticed every single day, and even those ones that go noticed and the people complain about them, like yesterday someone complaining about my episode, that also contributes to the productivity. It is not just about the bells and whistles when the whole wide world notices. Talking of TD Jakes, by the way, you realize that if it wasn't the tiny pushes of his honest work every single day when he was obscure, if it wasn't for those, then by the time this man came to prominence, we will not know who he was. We will not have the content that he had. We will not have the blessing that he had. He will not ascend to the throne, so to speak, as he did. What you're doing in obscurity is as productive as what you're doing in prominence. As a matter of fact, what you're doing in obscurity is actually much more important than what you're doing in prominence. Because in prominence, you're doing something out of the overflow. It is the roots that are giving the fruits. See, if you do not have the roots and now you come into prominence, believe me, you're not going to last. So if you're going to be a productive human being, I need you to be as consistent as possible, and I need you to stick to it through thick and through thin. Because you're going to come through very many oppositions, you're going to come through very many obstacles, you're going to face a lot of discouragement, you're going to face a lot of dry seasons where things are not funny, things are not going on. But let me tell you, you are growing in that season. You are growing in that time. And your productivity is being contributed to one way or another. So, today's episode, I am emphasizing on you being productive by sticking to it. Make sure you stick to it. Don't be one of those people who are jumping from one thing to another, jumping from one thing to another. If you can look at your life the past 3 years, can you see any kind of consistency, something that you've stuck with? I normally tell this to people who ask me questions about how they can be consistent, they can be productive. I tell them, don't give it a month, don't give it a year, give it at least 3 years, 3 good years. 3 good years is a good time for you to gauge your productivity. In fact, it's a good duration of time for you to create some kind of foundation and to start building momentum. But actually, I will even tell you, you need to give it 10 years before you can start calling it prominence. So stick to it. Find something that you can give your 10 years to. Find something that you can give your 3 years to, unabated. As in, you have stuck to it, you're not moving. The problem we have in the universe today is we are meddling. We're like potted plants which are being moved from one place to another. And a potted plant will never grow to its potential. So we keep meddling from this to this, to this, to that. But I challenge you, if you're going to be productive, productivity is about focus, it is about momentum, it is about steadfastness, it is about consistency. So if you're going to be productive in your life, find something you can dedicate the next 10 years to. And if you've been dedicating maybe the past 3 years to it and you don't see any fruits, well, don't give up. Keep doing what you're doing, as long as you have insight for it and as long as you've been called to it. Probably the crowds have not gathered. Probably the feedback is not so good yet. Probably what you consider to be a good output out of it is not yet there yet. See, the thing is that if you gave up today, you're going to start again from square zero. Do not ever fall into that trap where you are thinking that you need to strike it gold. In other words, you need to find something that will mature overnight. Even God himself started with one person. Come on, for God to get the 7 billion people plus who are on the earth today, he started with one guy. So be patient, but be committed at the same time. Thank you for listening. We're going to continue with these episodes in tomorrow's podcast. Bye-bye. A special shout out to my mentor Jeffrey Howard of Visionary Business University, found at mastermindmentor.com, who has graciously provided me with the soundtrack and the introductory track to this podcast. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.